Here's to feeling good all the time.
I can't speak without swearing, and I've only got my grade 10, and I haven't had a cigarette since I've been arrested, and I'm ready to fucking snap. So I'd like to make a request under the People's Freedom of Choices and Voices Act that I be able to smoke and swear in your courtroom. Because if I can't smoke and swear, I'm fucked. And so are all these guys. I won't be able to properly express myself at a court level, and that's bullshit. It's not fair, and if you ask me, I think it's a fucking mistrial.
Do you tire of listening to reactionary drivel every time you turn on your television? Do you want to learn about communism in a fun and interactive way instead? Then come down to Leaping Larry's. When you come down to Leaping Larry's, you will be greeted with a salute every time you step in through the door, because we value our comrades. At Leaping Larry's, you will learn how communism and the Juche idea can create a more equitable and just society. You will learn about the importance of collectivism and cooperation. And you will learn how communism can help to create a world without poverty or hunger. Leaping Larry's, your home for communist and video game edutainment.
Welcome everybody. How are we this morning? What'd you think of my new intro video? Still a work in progress, but figure it's something that's sort of the same every morning because I kind of ran out of Juche lessons videos. Don't worry though, I'll do more of them. We'll do more of them live at some point, is what I'm thinking. So hyped it's ridiculous. Oh yay. Well, let's start out with our usual stuff from DPRK. Then I got our People's News. And then I got a video here by Comrade Sam. I have the flag raising ceremony at Tian'anmen Square. I want to look at some early CGI because happened to encounter one of these, fake moon landing folks. So I wanted to look at early CGI to show you the idea of CGI having anything to do with faking the moon landing is hilarious. Hey Bamba, welcome Comrade. Holland Cakes, Cinnamon Challenge, NTC, GMO. Welcome in comrades, welcome in. March of the Fire Ants. Great to see you all here this morning. Yeah, I got a bunch of stuff. And then I got the MEMEAGE, of course. Let's start out with our usual DPRK song and Kim Jong-il video, part of the same documentary we're gonna be continuing. Yeah, I'm wondering, has anyone swam across the Atlantic though? First Indigenous Premier in Manitoba. Yeah, I heard about that. Hey, Strin Sam, I got your FBI video for today, comrade. Hope you are well, by the way. Okay, so this, I mean, people have, but it seems like they stop, right? Like, I don't know, like, I'd have to research more, but like this person here, it says that they undertook a swim in stages from Massachusetts to Brittany, France, including a 1 week stop in Portuguese archipelago. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like you would never make it, right? You definitely need to like have some sort of support or some way of stopping. I guess that's what it seems like most of these people do. Yeah. Yeah, definitely the only way it can be done. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's still swimming across it, but geez, that's more swimming than I want to do in a short period of time. That's for sure. I'll say that much. See, I have a problem, politics. I can't float worth of crap. I don't float. I sink. It's terrible. Yeah, you need to sleep and stuff. Yeah. Oh, I love the water. I just cannot float for whatever reason. Hey, lesbian hot sauce. Welcome, comrade. Thanks for your following. Lesbian hot sauce. Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, we're all fishermen here. I'm in Nova Scotia, Poland, dude. Well, we're doing, this is a Ponchobo Electric Ensemble, which is going to lead us into the Kim Jong-il work for this morning. Look at yeah, I didn't say requests. That's later. What is that? Oh god. That's later. Maybe. Give me Motorhead. Give a shout out to Red Falcon. I've been itching to get on some more Payday 3 there, Falcon. I still gotta wait to show you out. Saw this one. Super happy with here is Manitoba's First Nations premier. He is in Canada's First Nations premier, or even Indigenous premier. Don't disregard the hard work of others who came before him. Thank you, GMO. Yeah. You might have time this weekend. All right.
The Korean people's great leader Kim Jong-il developed the
volume on
immortal
this one
truth
is
idea in depth and raised it to the acme of
Right,
human
we might have to
thought.
skip this one. Volume is ridiculously low on this.
Kim Jong-il carries forward the Chuche revolutionary cause pioneered by President Kim Il-sung and is making
AICB,
great
welcome,
contribution to the
comrade.
development of human thought and theories. On his visit to the angling site at Mupo, an anti-Japanese revolutionary site on the northern tip of Korea, Kim Jong-il continued profound thinking to formulate the president's revolutionary thought and clarify its.
Okay. Super strange. Alright, we're skipping that one for now. Alright. Another song it is. Spent $3,000 on a vacation I'm taking myself that might either kill me. I hate this so much. I'm scared eventually get my next place to hang with people. Try to deal with all this. It's rough, comrade. Sure you're dealing with that. We're here. Was the volume wasn't too low? It wasn't the volume too low on this video though, comrades? Look. This is as high as I can make it.
The Korean people's great leader Kim Jong-il developed the immortal Chuch idea in depth and raised it to the acme of human thought. Kim Jong-il carries forward the Chuche revolutionary cause pioneered by President Kim Il-sung and is making a great contribution to the development of human thoughts and theories. President Kim Il-sung said, Comrade Kim Jong-il is an outstanding philosopher, statesman, and leader with versatile talents and capabilities. He's not only the greatest ideological and theoretical genius of the present times, but the greatest man human history has ever produced, the greatest man who is versed in all fields.
I've got some literature in my car that will change your whole way of thinking.
Thank you, Comrade Ninja Can. Very much appreciate that.
The progressive people of the world highly respect Kim Jong-il, who is developing and enriching the great man-centered Chuch idea and powerfully encouraging the forward movement of the people in the age of independence. Looking at Kim Jong-il's works, people of different strata from many parts of the world said, the great Korean leader Comrade Kim Jong-il is the highest incarnation of human thought. He is the great man of the present age who is standing on the highest peak of intelligence, leadership ability, and learning, the peak which nobody can climb. All his works are perfect and famous in that they are original, truthful, and strong in the spirit of the times.
I like to make music.
The miraculous changes and fruit of creation in Korea have been achieved by Comrade Kim Jong-il, the great statesman and great thinker.
Hey, I can appreciate audio quality too, okay? I'm just no expert at it. Clearly. Gonna be reading Kim Jong-il's work, by the way.
And persons of different
Bro.
strata to these endless vistas, President Kim Il-sung said warmly. Work in our country is successful now and will be successful in the future too, because Comrade Kim Jong-il continues with our revolutionary course excellently. Statesmanship requires philosophical knowledge. Leaders' level of leadership and their abilities depend on their political philosophy. There are many renowned statesmen in the world, but few of them have a correct political philosophy. I am proud of the fact that Kim Jong-il in our country is an authoritative philosopher and theoretician. Since his university days, Comrade Kim Jong-il has been fond of thinking and studying with unusual interest in philosophical questions. Ever since his days in Kim Il-sung University, Kim Jong-il has been engaged in ideological and theoretical activity to brilliantly inherit and develop President Kim Il-sung's revolutionary thought. Kim Jong-il made sure that Juche was firmly established in education
You
and
enjoy me
scientific
some good
research
quality
work
audio.
by thoroughly eliminating sycophantic and dogmatic elements in education and having teaching materials newly written on the basis of President Kim Il-sung's thought, theory, and policy. Kim Jong-il personally wrote and published many treatises from the viewpoint of Juche. In his scientific treatise, he corrected a historical writing about the unification of three nations by Silla and the appraisal of Kim Il-sung, which had been distorted by flankist historians for many centuries. He also established a theory of imperialism in a fresh light on the basis of scientific analysis and philosophical anatomy of all the aspects of modern imperialism.
Yes, it is.
Thus, he provided a powerful
Definitely
ideological
agree.
and theoretical weapon for anti-imperialist, anti-US struggle. Kim Jong-il said, "We are studying in order to carry out our revolution successfully. We must therefore harden ourselves through education and productive labor and
I've not
firmly
seen that
establish a
lesbian hot
revolutionary
sauce.
world outlook."
Give me the name in Discord.
Kim Jong-il also elucidated the outstanding idea of strengthening the unity of ideology and purpose of the ranks and faithfully learning military affairs by attaching importance to them. Although under the pressure of time assisting the president in his field guidance, Kim Jong-il continued thinking and inquiry and wrote a large number of works. More than
Making you all
1,200
biscuits.
historic works published by Kim Jong-il during his university years are shining as ideological and theoretical wealth for their immense amount of content, profundity, and originality. Foreign friends who visited the university vehemently praised that Kim Jong-il, who undertook ideological and theoretical activities,
Jesus
politician and
Christ.
statesman with brilliant intelligence
Falcon.
and preeminent qualifications.
Thank you, Falcon. Are you making everyone biscuits or what?
Since the first day of his work on the Central Committee of the Workers' Party of Korea, Kim Jong-il has carried on his ideological and theoretical activity more energetically. He has tirelessly carried on the ideological and theoretical activity with far-sighted intelligence in order to find scientific solutions to the many urgent theoretical and practical questions awaiting answers with the development of times. He made a full review of the working class theory of the preceding age and clarified its historical limitations, and on this basis repeated painstaking inquiries to prove the originality and superiority of the revolutionary thought of President Kim Il-sung.
What the hell have you just sent me? I don't know what you just sent me, but okay, we're gonna listen to the song and then we'll see what the fuck Falcon has sent. Falcon has sent a silly message and we're gonna watch it. It's got a nice tune to it.
바람에 나무 잎이 날려도 그리워지고 저 하늘
Yeah, it is.
아버지 장군님 품으로 달려가 안기고픈 이 마음 그리움에 불타네 오늘도 안녕을 바라며
He's got some voice too.
떨어져 있어도 그 사람 더 헤만치고 갈수록 인자하신 그 용사 못내 그립네 구름아 나를 실어 가주렴 아버지 장군님 품으로 달려가 안기고픈
Hey, Dark Matter. What's going on?
그리움에 불타네 오늘도 안녕을 바라며 기다립니다
I love that. The guitar part is fucking perfect.
찬바람 불어와도 언제나 변함이 없이 영원히 충성을 다해가 오직 한 생각 구름아 나를 실어 가주렴 아버지
Yeah, it does, Red Falcon. Yeah, it does.
품으로 달려가 안기고픈 이 마음 그리움에 불타네 오늘도 안녕을 바라며 기다립니다
Fucking A. Alright, Red Falcon sent a little something along here. Red Falcon sent this. Right, man, maple syrup? Welcome in, comrade.
Tiny piggy man, where are you, tiny piggy man? Driving a giant truck, the biggest truck in town. Where are you, tiny piggy man? Driving the loudest car in the land.
That's the second best That's the second best command that was ever made on this channel. March. Run, look at Eddie. Getting big. Does Ty want to go out? He's a good duck. He's a very good duck. But not really a duck, but kind of a duck. Alright, I think we're gonna do the news now. And once we do the news, I've got all kinds. Well, I've got a couple videos related to the news. I got Strin Sam recommended a video that we're gonna watch. And I've got some memeage as well. Funny memeage.
Land defending. Water defending. Strike actions. International politics. Socialist news. Bringing you the stories that matter most to revolutionaries. This is People's News with Leaping Larry.
Welcome to the news with Leaping Larry. I was thinking one day I'll have to get a green screen, right? And then I can have the different, like, actual backgrounds for everything as well. That would be top notch. Oh, thank you, GMO. Always looking out for my lung health. I appreciate that. All right. As you know, I have our news sources that we usually look through. We got Red Nation, Liberation News, etc. We look through. We're about we're about that leftist news sources. I especially like to read Pyongyang Times to you because, you know, save it up for Korg time, and then NTC redeemed the Korg time. Well, Korg time it is then. Comrades, I just received something to the desk. It's breaking news. And the breaking news is wait. Why was the tempo up? The badge broke. Really? Wait, I got a good one. There you go. Korg break. Thank you for the 2,000 labor vouchers. The 2,000 of your hard-earned labor vouchers. And don't forget as well, we have the challenge going on whereby we're gonna be taking a trip to DPRK. Exactly, exactly. You know you want to go for a trip to DPRK. I'm gonna fly you all there. All right, let us continue on now. We will carry on with the news after that special announcement. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, the Volca is awesome. I would really love to get like a K oscillator or something one day, because then I could really get wild with just doing a few things. One day, one day. Alright. Premier inspects agricultural sector of North and South Yangon province. Kim Tak-han, member of the Presidium of the Political Bureau of the Central Committee of the Workers' Party of Korea, Vice President of the State Affairs Commission of the DPRK, and Premier of the Cabinet, inspected the agricultural sector of North and South Yangon provinces. It is very based, Falcon. After acquainting himself in detail with the situation of harvesting and threshing in different counties, including Frangwon and Rangshan counties, the Premier said that it is very important for the officials of the Agricultural Commission and agricultural guidance organs at all levels to conduct on-the-spot guidance over farming and direct farming operations in a responsible manner in order to round off this year's farming. Yeah, everybody's sound alerts have been delayed, Red Falcon. I was on $27 stream last night hanging out, and his were all delayed. He called for attaching importance to threshing in the field, raising the operation rate to combine harvesters to the maximum, and meticulously doing all farm work to gather the crops without any waste on the basis of detailed grasp of the harvesting and threshing in each region and farm. He stressed the need to rationally organize labor for the sowing of winter wheat and barley and give proper technical guidance to finish it qualitatively in the right time, since various farming processes are carried out simultaneously. The experience gained in farming this year proves that it is a sure guarantee of increased grain production to thoroughly implement the party's policy on perfecting the irrigation system of the country, give full play to the spiritual strength of agricultural workers. He said, and referred to the need to make thorough preparations for next year's irrigation project, conduct the work for further arousing the mounting enthusiasm of the masses in a methodological way. Pointed to the necessity for provinces, cities, and counties to correctly implement the state policy on grain and take measures to increase the grain processing capacities of food administration stations, ACNA. Matter of urgency facing mankind. Experts had expressed concern that an extremely abnormal climate phenomena would occur more often on a larger scale due to the overlap between El Nino and global warming that is getting ever more serious, while predicting that El Nino would begin in June this year. As if to prove this, the sea surface temperature in the east and central waters near the equator of the Pacific Ocean remarkably rose, leading to a series of catastrophic climatic abnormalities. Some regions had record high daily temperatures, whereas some countries suffered heavy damage from unexpectedly violent storms. Disasters caused by abnormal climate are still occurring across the world, inflicting enormous human and material losses on different countries. Coming up, Ty? Coming? Large numbers of people have suffered severe damage from heavy rain. Different parts of China were hit by unprecedentedly heavy rain. According to the news reports, the heavy rain that began to pour down in Hong Kong's Special Administrative Region September 7th flooded roads, underground stations, and shops. More than 100 people were taken to hospital. The torrential downpour turned streets into raging river, and the water was several meters deep in some areas. Shenzhen and other areas of southern parts of China had the heaviest rain ever since 1952. Tajikistan suffered casualties, including over 10 deaths due to pouring rain. Here we had also broke records like since the 70s for the heaviest rainfall this year as well. In maritime territory of Russia, heavy rain paralyzed traffic in 27 residential areas and caused serious losses to the agricultural sector. When torrential rain is causing flooding in some parts of the world, terrible wildfires are spreading in other parts to reduce everything to ashes. Texas of the U.S. sustained wildfire damage, according to relevant authorities. As high temperature persisted for the past 2 months, there was only a little rain. Grass and trees have dried up to increase the risk of wildfire. Meanwhile, wildfire damage keeps expanding in Canada, which has suffered huge losses from already massive wildfires. In the country, wildfires occurred in about 1,000 places. As a result, an emergency was declared in many cities and residents were evacuated. Tunisia was also hit by wildfires in some areas as hot and dry weather continued and temperature rose to 50 degrees Celsius. Holy mackerel. Wildfires occurred in 10 places of 5 provinces in 24 hours. Some areas such European countries as Italy and Spain were also engulfed in flames. The damage by typhoon is also tremendous. Typhoons occurred in the Pacific Ocean in succession and caused severe damage to Japan, the Philippines, China, and other countries and regions. The Philippines, which suffered several typhoon attacks this year, about 200,000 people were afflicted by Typhoon number 9 alone. As seen above, various kinds of ceaseless natural disasters caused by abnormal weather are endangering the existence and development of mankind. The problem is that all this is just the beginning presaging of greater disasters, to be brought to mankind. Experts say that the Earth might become warmer in 2024. Heat waves might appear more frequently, and their intensity might be fiercer, warning that this is just the beginning. The pressing issue for mankind is to cope with the disastrous abnormal climate. Pyongyang Times News. Hi. Right, we got one more here from Pyongyang Times News. Chinese defense industry brands US as the biggest empire of hackers, wiretappers, and thieves in the world. Yep. Accurate. A spokesman for the Chinese Defense Ministry in the news conference on September 28th said that the US is the worst hacker in the world. As the biggest empire of hackers, wiretappers, and secret thieves in the world, the US is carrying out at will a large-scale, systematic, and indiscriminate network attack against other countries. He said and disclosed that the targets of the network attacks include even its own allies. As a country was the first to launch cyber warfare, the US developed all sorts of network attack weapons. He added and stressed the network space has to be a new space for bringing happiness to humanity. And he strongly demanded that the US stop slandering China groundlessly and instigating a militarization of network space. That KCNA and Pyongyang Times together. What do you think, Ty? Hi. But we're told China is the baddies. Yeah, here at Leaping Larry's People's News, you learn the opposite of that. Heard that, huh? So here we got one from Liberation News. The homes of over 100 journalists, contractors, and former employees associated with the progressive news outlets NewsClick and People's Dispatch, as well as Tricontinental Research Services, were raided by Indian authorities in the early morning of October 3rd in the capital, New Delhi. Several raids were also carried out in the cities of Noida, Ghaziabad, Gurgaon, and Mumbai. According to local reports, around 50 individuals were taken into police station for additional questioning. NewsClick editor-in-chief Prabhar Pirkshat and administrator Amit Chakraborty had been arrested under draconian anti-terror laws, the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, UAPA. At least 500 police officers and intelligence agencies have participated in the operation. Among those raids, interrogated and detention are renowned journalists Ramesh Abhishar Sharma, Yundinyo Chakraborty, Bashar Singh, Karanjoy Gotakarda, comedian Sangjoy Rajura, sports journalist Ajin Pandit, human rights activist and former political prisoner Tista Sedavad. Following his release, Sharma said, after a day-long interrogation by Delhi's special cell, I am back home. Each and every question posed will be answered. Nothing to fear. And I will keep questioning people in power, and particularly those who are afraid of simple questions, not backing down at any cost. Democracy under attack. Police records show that the case against NewsClick under UAPA was registered on August 17th, just over a week after New York Times report was published, which alleged that NewsClick, amongst other progressive news outlets, is part of a Chinese news propaganda network. The report backed a political and media scandal within India, which saw right-wing news outlets running dozens of pieces lodging baseless accusations. The members of the outlets are Chinese propagandists. Members of parliament from the far-right ruling Bharatiya Janata Party, as well as high-level authorities like Home Minister Amit Shah, had also made similar statements on the parliament floor and to media. Today's raids and mass repression have been widely condemned by progressive organizations, press associations, and opposition parties from across India. It's a grave attack on democracy, civil liberties, and human rights. The Editors Guild of India released a statement expressing deep concern about the raids at the residences of senior journalists on the morning of October 3rd, and the subsequent detention of many of those journalists. The Guild is urging the Indian government to follow due process and not to make draconian criminal laws as tool for press intimidation. The New Delhi unit of All India Lawyers Union stated that they were deeply concerned about the implications of these arrests for press freedom, the democratic values that our nation holds dear. Freedom of the press is a cornerstone of any vibrant democracy. It is essential for journalists to be able to report independently on matters of public interest without fear of harassment or intimidation. Journalists play a crucial role in holding those in power accountable and informing the public about important issues. Unless you're talking about US or Canadian journalists. The All India Democratic Women's Association, AIDWA, said in a public statement, "This highly undemocratic, unjustified, repressive action has been ostensibly carried out to intimidate independent and fearless journalists and others who have been critical of government policies. The BJP government has now chosen to use the draconian UAPA along with other sections of the IPC to carry out these latest raids and confiscate the electronic belongings, including laptops and mobiles of the concerned individuals. Witnesses report that over 100 home raids lasted on average between 4 and 10 hours. Those interrogated faced a wide range of questions, such as whether or not they had reported on the farmers' protests in India, protests against the controversial Citizen Amendment Act, India's mismanagement of COVID-19, or anything considered anti-government. In some cases, authorities ransacked people's homes searching for material, and one person reported that authorities threw his book to the floor and confiscated all titles by German philosopher Karl Marx. The cell phones and computers were seized from the majority of those who faced raids and were detained. Yeah, 100% BB. The office of NewsClick in New Delhi was sealed by police after it was raided. The home of Secretary General of the Communist Party of India, Marxist Sitaram Yechury, was also raided. Following the raid, he told media, "Police came to my residence because one of my companions who lives with me there, his son, works for NewsClick. The police came to question him. They took his laptop and phone. What are they investigating? Nobody knows. This is an attempt to try and muzzle the media. The country must know the reason behind this." The repression today is just the latest act of harassment against NewsClick, which was first raided in February 2021 by the Enforcement Directorate alleging economic fraud and money laundering. At the time, many activists had highlighted that the attack had occurred amid the growing farmers' protests. NewsClick was one of the outlets providing consistent reporting on the struggle and had gained widespread notoriety for its on-the-ground reports from farmers' protests, camps. The country's courts had granted the site protection from any coercive measures, such as arrest and imprisonment by authorities in this case. but the UAPA grants authorities special privileges to override those court protections. Of course. Oh yeah, I forgot to do this. He's a tired kitty. I forgot to do this. Here we go. Okay. The UAPA, which was first established in 1967, has come under increased scrutiny in recent years. The UAPA, which was first established in 1967, has come under increased scrutiny in recent years, as it has been used by government of far-right BJP leader Narendra Modi to persecute human rights activists, journalists, and scholars in the country. The law gives government special powers to bypass civil liberties, fundamental rights, and freedoms of citizens, such as the right to a fair trial. The amendment to the UAPA in 2008 gives the government the power to designate individuals or groups as terrorists with no formal judicial process. In a statement condemning the arrest of several anti-CAA protesters in 2020, Amnesty International wrote the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, UAPA, is routinely used by the government to bypass human rights and stifle dissent. 2018, the conviction rate under UAPA was 27%, while 93% of cases remain pending in court. It is a mere tool of harassment that the government uses to harass, intimidate, and imprison those who are critical of the government. Slow investigative process and extremely stringent bail provisions under the UAPA ensure that they are locked up for years altogether, creating a convenient setting for unlawful detention and torture. The Students' Federation of India called upon its units across India to organize emergency protests in response to the brutal crackdown on Indian media by the Modi government. Speaking of morning news, wait, this just in, comrades, this just in. Meow. Tell them, kitty. Yeah, so India's flexing its fascist muscle, as I saw someone just say up here, BB. Yep. And notice how they're using that anti-China rhetoric. That's the same one that, of course, the U.S. is using now. You think that's any coincidence that like all the bourgeoisie are like aligned on blaming China? I don't know. Here we go. I got three more articles to close it out for you, comrades, here from Workers' World. New York City anti-NATO protests. Based. Protesters leave CNN headquarters at Columbus Circle in Manhattan to walk in the street through and through crowds in Times Square to end at the headquarters of the New York Times. They protested NATO's proxy war in Ukraine and the lies promoted by these corporate media monopolies. The October 1st action was part of over 60 planned worldwide for the first week in October. Week 3, dynamic auto strike expands. The dynamic auto strike, the first time in UAW's history that workers at General Motors, Ford, and Chrysler are on strike at the same time, now in its third week. On September 29th, UAW President Shawn Fain announced on Facebook that workers at two assembly plants, Ford's Chicago Assembly and GM's Lansing Delta Township, would join the strike that day at noon. Now, about 25,000 workers are on strike at 5 assembly plants, of the three companies, and all of the parts warehouses at GM and Stellantis. Stellantis, the fourth biggest auto company in the world, was formed by a merger of Fiat Chrysler Automobiles and PSA Peugeot. The union has made progress on some of its 10 core demands, which have included a sizable pay increase, elimination of pay and benefit tiers, restoration of the cost of living allowances, give up the 2009 bankruptcy, a raise in pensions, pensions for all future retirees, and a shorter work week, 32 hours for 40 hours pay. Workers not yet on strike are engaged in the contract struggle in a variety of ways, from collectively refusing voluntary overtime to solidarity rallies, car caravans, to red shirt days in the plant. Many of these activities have been initiated by rank-and-file activists, local union leaders, or the grassroots caucus Unite All Workers for Democracy. UAWD led the campaign for a new militant leadership, the Members United Slate, which gave reformers a majority of the UAW's International Executive Board. This includes President Fain, first president elected directly by the rank and file. Members wanted to change from the class collaborationist leadership of the past, who had been given up concessions to the companies going back to the first government bailout of Chrysler back in 1979. The New York City activists held a solidarity picket line and rally on September 30th outside the GM building in Manhattan. The action was sponsored by the December 12th Movement, Workers' World Party, Teamsters Local 808, Coalition of Black Trade Unionists, and others. Speakers included UAW Local 3309 President Jeff Purcell, whose local is on strike at Stellantis parts warehouses in Tappan, New York, CPTU New York City Chapter President Charles Jenkins, and Workers' World Party First Secretary Larry Holmes. Solidarity messages are pouring in from the U.S. Based on international unions, Mexican auto workers have said they will not accept overtime if any of the auto companies shift work to Mexico to break the strike. The working class around the world is in solidarity with this historic struggle to win back gains that workers have lost over the past few decades. Martha Gravett is a UAW retiree. Solidarity with the UAW strikers. If you get out, if you're near one of the actions, please get out and do so, comrades. It was good to get out there. If you're able to, of course. Orange Shirt Day protests. This is the final news article for today. And then we have 2 news pieces as well. Salute, comrades. Oh my god, everybody's doing the burpa. 200 labor vouchers and we can listen to it. Or not, 200 biddies, sorry. 200 generous biddies and we can listen to it. Just gotta scroll down. Orange Shirt Day protests. Mazaska talks. Indigenous tribal members and their allies marched from Seattle Federal Building on September 30th to observe Orange Shirt Day, an event created to expose, oppose, and rectify the damage done by Canadian government-sponsored residential schools. Yeah, we talked about that yesterday, lesbian. It was the Red Nation reported that. They shot it up because they had an action stop that was to stop the bringing down of the statue, and they even warned authorities that there was potential for a shooting or violence to occur, and authorities didn't even show up. Typical colonist bullshit. Mazaska talks. Indigenous tribal members and their allies marched from Seattle Federal Building on September 30th to observe Orange Shirt Day, an event to expose, oppose, and rectify the damage done by Canadian government-sponsored residential schools and U.S. government-backed American Indian boarding schools. That is Cicely Whitehawk, Mexica Tenocha Center, and others gather for National Day of Remembrance for Indian boarding schools, also known as Orange Shirt Day, Seattle on September 30th. I had a meme on that. I had a meme of that one, Cinnamon. I'll find it while we're watching the while we're watching the news things. The Day of Actions are held to honor Indigenous children stolen by state authorities in the US and Canada throughout the boarding school system. It is estimated that 4,000 to 2,000 children died at residential schools in Canada. In 2022 report from Federal Indian Boarding Schools, initiative reports marked and unmarked burial grounds at 53 separate U.S. sites. Chants on the march led by Indigenous youth included "No Pride in Genocide" since 1492, "No Pride in Genocide in Boarding Schools too." The march went to Westlake Center for a rally, where Lumi Nation member Freddie Lane spoke of his experience in the Chemawa boarding school in Salem, Oregon, still in operation since 1880. Records show that at least 270 children died in Chemawa. Lane introduced an indigenous man who had crossed the U.S. border with his family when he was 5 years old, uplifting the struggles of undocumented immigrants. Matthew Warbonnet of the Sikangu Lakota Nation, who had previously testified before Congress about his experiences at the St. Francis Indian Boarding School on the Rosebud Indian Reservation in South Dakota, addressed the gathering. For 100 years, the church operated by Jesuit priests had our children in their schools. He spoke of a priest throwing his brother down the stairs, breaking his arm. He spoke of indigenous youth being killed. He pulled out a leather razor strap and talked about it being used constantly in the infirmary of the school. He ended his remarks by singing a memorial song about his experience. I told you in this book here, when we were reading this book the other day during the big stream, you remember about the force feeding, and when person was vomiting up their food, they would spoon the vomit back in their mouth, along with many other horrible fucking atrocities. Another event honoring Orange Shirt Day was held on Tulip Indian Reservation north of Seattle on the site of former Tulalip Indian School. Orange Shirt Day should serve as a teachable moment for all students of this country, from grade school to college, for them to learn of boarding school genocidal violence and how to stand up and protest against crimes committed against their indigenous siblings. Yeah, I mentioned it in this here. Yeah, these ones. This part. This part right here. I'll just read you this part because it's related to what we're talking about here. So this is very quickly here. I read this the other day, as I mentioned. This is just from Rita Joe here. I'm just going to read this little part here again, since it's related to this article that we just read. When the manuscripts of many Mi'kmaq writers arrived, I read through them. I had many strong reactions. For example, memories flooded to my mind concerning the residential schools. I've always tried to think of that place in a positive way, but it is hard to do so when some of the stories are chronicled by my former classmates. There was the poor girl whose vomit and food was spooned back in her mouth when she was too weak to resist. I too had seen a lot of that sort of thing. I even asked one woman in Eskasoni if she remembered when it was done to her. I am glad she does not. I do remember what happened now, and it is not a pleasant memory. I remember my friend Mary Angus Ward, who had just turned 16 and was happy that soon she would be leaving the school after being there over 9 years. Tragically, she died after receiving a beating. That beating cannot be disputed because all 200 children were in the dining room when it happened. I saw her distorted face when we went to our work in the kitchen. It was no wonder that place was haunted. There was so much trauma taking place there. Another young fellow I pitied was Maurice Young, who used to throw spitballs at us. He drove the girls up the wall, but it was very sad when he was taken to the hospital for a simple operation. We were told later that he died of fright. Some of these people never had a chance. Their lives ended by something I can never understand today. Nonetheless, a lot of these people left the residential schools and advanced into successful careers. Being told every day that you will not amount to anything makes you work all the harder to improve yourself. Yeah, that's what they told the kids, Cinnamon. Obviously, they took them and killed them. The story I like above all others is about one girl who became a highly educated professional. She went back to one of her tormentors and she said, "Look at what I've become, sister." There were no further words spoken. The profession said it all. Yeah. By the way, she does recommend a book in here that I suggest you all have a look at, which is called Ode of the Depth. She mentions it right here. I was never attended the gatherings held in Millbrook Reserve for voicing the concerns about the victims of residential school. The reason is that I do not consider myself a victim. I have no one to blame for going to that place. When I was 12 years old, I wrote to the Indian agent, H.C. Rice of Shubenacadie, to pick me up at my stepbrother's house in Oxford Junction. I wanted to learn, not knowing what, but just to learn something. The Mi'kmaq used to call the place college. So in my childish mind, it was some place of learning. There was physical abuse and mental mistreatment, as well as the denial of our cultural values. And language. The chronicle of such abuse is well written in Isabel Knockwood's book, Ode of the Depths. I once asked Isabel why she named the book that title. She said, "Remember when we used to kneel and pray? Oh, to the depths I have cried to thee, O Lord. I prayed with all my heart to be removed from the place, and it never happened." I understand her logic because I used to think that way too. After the disappointment dawned on me that college was not good. Today I think differently. Whatever I have become, it was because of the events shaping that part of my life. If the time comes to testify to what I saw, I will tell the truth. The book Out of the Depths is like a release for many of us. The release of our hurt held so long. Once you can tell somebody your story, you can have a good cry. When I learned that some of the nuns were alive, I visited the one I used to like. We went into each other's arms and wept, but the ones that used to make my life hell I never wanted to see. In the 1990s, the unfair attitudes are not as bad as before. They remain mostly small town habits which do not die easily. The majority of people who have their low opinions of other cultures keep it to themselves. An educated person knows enough not to bend to that level. She was so... I myself do not feel any different than anybody else, so rather you accept me as a person who tried to bridge the gap to better understanding with the First Nations and Canada. So I just wanted to read you that short little part. Now, residential schools. Just wanted to read you that part because it was related to the, just that part where she talks about what was going on in the residential schools. They mentioned some of the things that were going on up here, so I was just talking about Rita Joe's little part here where she talks about residential schools in Canada. Yeah, we did talk about the Red Nations shooting yesterday. Thanks, comrades. Okay, I'm gonna do. I'm gonna let the Democracy Now! Breakthrough News do the news for a minute now.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez. As we turn to a shocking new report that estimates 35,000 people have been killed by law enforcement in the U.S. since the year 2000, and that the number of brown and black people killed by police may be more than double the amount widely reported. The RASA database project was founded by the late Roberto Rodriguez, also known as Dr. Sintley, who died in July. Rodriguez was Associate Professor of Mexican-American Studies at the University of Arizona, who himself survived a brutal police assault in 1979 when Los Angeles sheriff deputies beat him for taking pictures of them beating another man.
I mean, it's got lots more in it,
He spent the rest of his life fighting police brutality and...
We will read more. Like, it does have a lot of other stuff in it as well. Like, the story of Glooskap is in here. The story of Glooskap is right here. This is the anthology, so this is like all kinds of different stories, all kinds of different stuff. Also, gonna be reading this like Fridays, some Fridays. I don't know if I can handle it every Friday.
Writing about Chicano culture. In 2021, he joined Democracy Now! To discuss how preliminary findings of the RASA database project's report show deaths of Latinx and indigenous people at the hands of police were undercounted by a quarter to one-third in national databases and were virtually ignored by the media.
One of the things that we asked ourselves as a group, should we count all deaths, in custody, et cetera? And everybody said yes. And now, personally, I wanted just the ones that are unjustified. But how do you determine what's unjustified when you don't have a judicial system that works?
Appreciate that, Paul.
It's like 100. I would say 99.9% impunity, both in the killings that we examined and also the Border Patrol. You can count in one hand with a finger or two to spare of police officers that are doing hard time. Say 30, 40, 50 years to life. I doubt there's even 5. Personally, I think that's the actual solution. Until you see that, you're not going to see anything. No reform is going to fix anything because all the cop has to say is, I feared for my life, and that absolves everything.
The late Professor Roberto Sintley Rodriguez, fondly referred to as Dr. Sintley. For more on the formal release of the RASA database project, we're joined by its project manager, Yvette Sochiot Boizo, a mental health patient and civil and human rights advocate, and Jesus Garcia, demographer, statistician on the project. We welcome you both to Democracy Now! Jesus, let's begin with you. Explain what you found.
Yes, Amy Juan, thank you very much for
Weighs
this
on all of
opportunity
us, that's for sure.
be here with you. So Roberto asked me to participate in this project on a volunteer basis, and he more or less, as you heard, knew what the subject matter was, but he wasn't able to, articulate the statistics. And so over the past 2 years, I've been looking at data from open source information, and what the results are that the Latino population of people killed, Spanish surname, is at about 6,500 between the year 2000 and 2022. That's an over 2,000 increase from what some estimates say at about 4,500. Equally important here is the Asian population count. The Asian population count has gone from just about under 500 under old methodologies to over 2,000 deaths, a 75% increase. So our goal with this project was to not only address the missing information for Latinos, but overall, and see the impact on all our communities of color, all our disenfranchised people. And to tell you the truth, this has been a very difficult project to work on personally. This is not my forte, but Roberto asked me to participate in this project, and I think the results are pretty groundbreaking, and they're the beginning, not the end, of further discussions on this issue.
And Jesus Garcia, I wanted to ask you in terms of.
To be clear, Red Falcon, I wasn't crying because I was sad.
The increases in numbers, could you talk about what were the weaknesses of the previous counts, such as, for instance, the Washington Post's a big study that they did about police deaths? You found that there were a significant number of people who were listed as with no racial identity initially or as other, and that you were able to track down more clearly their ethnic or racial origin. Talk about that process.
Yes, absolutely. So first of all, there is no federal standard for collection of this information. There's no federal department at the Department of Justice or a Center for Disease Control or the like. So the task of collecting data as it is has fallen on these open sources and in fact on individuals. So I'm talking about Fatal Encounters website, Mapping Police Violence, and obviously you mentioned the Washington Post and the Guardian and others. But in the collection of this information, it's compiled by basically independent people. And I think this is a very good reason for having good independent media. Without a federal collection, independent media, independent sources are the ones that have compiled a list. So when you're doing these sorts of crowdsources information, there's going to be gaps. And a big gap are things like the race, ethnicity of an individual. In many cases, there are no names, the location. And so there's a host of issues with the data. And so what I was able to do was to merge these different data sets into one. And then having worked at the U.S. Census Bureau, because of my background, I was able to then try to assign missing race and race and ethnicity based on the U.S. Census Bureau's 160,000 surname list. And so, as I mentioned, it's taken 2 years to get to this point, but it's because of independent sources. I also need to thank the Cal State University and the technology tools. These things are not easy to do. It takes specialized skills, and we just have been able to assemble a team of people and technologies to get us to this point. So the data, I feel, are fairly accurate. As I mentioned, there's much more to do, but I stand by the counts that we have. And so it's, again, they're terrible numbers to look at, but I think like anything else, it's a beginning of hopefully the healing of this very difficult time in our country here.
I wanted to bring
in terms
healing.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Jesus Garcia.
No healing
you also
without
found
dismantling.
a significant increase in the number of whites killed by police, didn't you? In your study?
Yes, the initial data of over 33,000 deaths included over 9,000 unknown or other. And so again, and included in that count was white ethnicity at about 11,300. Over the course of the new results, I was able to supplement that count by nearly 5,000 individuals. So the current count of people classified as white, non-Hispanic is over 16,000 people. They comprise 50% of the deaths. One thing that I have to note among the African American population is African Americans in the population represent about 12% of the U.S. population. They are, however, 24% or a quarter of all of that. So no matter what you may think out there politically, the data are clear that there is something happening that is greatly impacting our African American community. And,
Something
the results are
happening, yeah.
stark and bare. So, yes,
called
the white
slavery
count
and
did
genocide.
increase, but so did all the other counts for race, ethnicity.
I wanted to bring Sociote into this conversation. Yvette Boiseau, the project manager for the Lhasa Database Project.
Yeah, the police are still, the point still stands. Police are killing more people overall, but still disproportionately killing people of color, of course.
Two things. It's Hispanic Heritage Month and the significance of Roberto Rodriguez and all of his work. So sorry that we weren't also speaking to him today, since he was going to bring us the final report. But
me too,
we lost him in the last years. His significance, his imprint on this, but also, in particular, Yvette Boiseau, if you could talk about the sexual violence against particularly migrant women.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. Absolutely. I think the report itself, the research that we've done is groundbreaking. It's revolutionary in itself. Unfortunately, it's only given police brutality that we can actually prove, and one of the only types of violences that we have data for. We don't have an actual account or any type of data when it comes to the violence against women, and especially when it comes to migrants, which is even more alarming because, as you know, there's forced sterilizations within the detention centers, women that have been forcefully sterilized as part of their probation terms in this country. So when we look at the people being affected mostly by this type of genocidal practices, it's women of color. So if you ask me, under international law, these are crimes against humanity. This is a genocide. And it's so unfortunate that there's not any type of actual collection of information against these types of violences and crimes against humanity.
And what was most surprising to you as you were compiling the data and getting a final report?
I think, unfortunately, there was not much of a surprise. I think within our communities, the indigenous community, the migrant community, the undocumented community, any community of color, this is just a mere reflection of the truth that we have known for a long time. We know that violence has existed from the conception of this country, and it just continues to evolve and take a different name and role. I think what's the most disturbing out of all of this, it's the impunity rate and how the judicial system has been set in place to hold people accountable, and that people are supposed to be innocent and to proven guilty, and yet we see people that have a weapon and a badge, and they determine who lives and dies basically under their discretion, with no proper training, with no adequate tools. And this is affecting thousands and thousands of people in the United States.
Sociote, we have to end here, but we're going to conduct this interview in Spanish as well, and we'll post it at democracynow.org. Yvette Boiseau, project manager for La Raza Database Project, and Jesus Garcia, demographer and statistician on the project.
What the fuck?
That does it for our show. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, I got one more show here. This one is
we now want to turn to the island of Cuba, which of course is facing a very wide-ranging and certainly, I would say, criminal blockade put forward by the United States, one element of which is that they have been labeled a state sponsor of terrorism, which, as you might imagine, has all sorts of negative repercussions for anyone who's on that list, sort of an amazing designation. But to get into all of that and more, we are very, very honored to be joined here by Manolo de los Santos, who is a co-executive director of the People's Forum. As always, Manolo, thank you so much for being with us here on the Freedom Side.
It's an honor to join you again, Eugene and Rania.
Well, it is an honor to have you here with us. And maybe my first question is, I think some people might be shocked to hear this. I mean, why is Cuba on the state sponsors of terrorism list that the United States puts out, and how absurd is that?
Why is Cuba on this list is the question that 11 million Cubans have, and I would say millions of people around the world. First of all, it's a very arbitrary list, which was essentially created by the Reagan administration to politically attack nations that it disagreed with and who it couldn't find any other ways to subjugate or attack. And Cuba's been on the list before. It was removed from that list by the Obama administration under the understanding that Cuba was, in fact, playing a powerful role in both the peace processes in Colombia. It was encouraging development across the region and in other parts of the third world. Cuba posed no actual threat to the US's national security. Now, in Trump's last week in the White House, as if it hadn't been enough that they had placed already 243 sanctions on the Cuban people, which had greatly affected Cuba's economy in the middle of the COVID pandemic, the Trump White House puts Cuba back on the list to just put further salt on the injury of the Cuban people. And what has done since then, again, against everyone's disbelief, because no one understands why Cuba should be on this list, what it does is that it has scared away any bank or most banks around the world that want to do transactions with the island. It has scared away many investors, and it has honestly made it even much more difficult for day-to-day transactions with the Cuban people.
No, it's really outrageous, especially because Cuba's already under this insane decades-long blockade. So you're adding this on top of that. It's so incredibly aggressive, and the reasoning behind it, though, or when the way it came to be, was the result of Cuba playing a peacemaking role, which is the irony of all of this, is that it was added because of Cuba playing a peacemaking role. I'm just curious if you could give some details on that, because I think it's important for people to understand the justification that was used for this.
Well, it's a very important element of this story, which often doesn't get told in US media, despite so many people talking about it in the rest of the world. I mean, the Colombian president has given several press conferences talking about this, yet it doesn't seem to sort of get to the ears of key people in Washington who, in my opinion, seem to intentionally or selectively not hear this message, which is that Cuba, having successfully sponsored the peace process between the FARC guerrillas and the Colombian government, then went on to sponsor a second peace process, this time with the ELN guerrillas. These ELN guerrillas, as part of the signed agreement signed by the Cuban government, the Norwegian government, the ELN, and the Colombian government at that time, guaranteed that Cuba would host the negotiating team of the ELN, regardless of what took place in Colombia. Under no conditions could the host country, the sponsoring country, Cuba, send back these ELN guerrilla negotiators, especially if they were facing death threats back home. Well,
look, he was mentioned in the media here a second ago. Red Falcon redeemed a quote. I got the perfect one. We're talking about U.S. media right here. There is no free and independent press in the United States. The notion of a free market of ideas is as mythical as the notion of a free market of goods. A good one from Comrade Perenni. Turned 90 just the other day. Yesterday, in fact, I think. There you go. There's the truth about the media in the U.S.
A series of incidents took place in Colombia. There was a new Colombian government that switched his mind and basically went against the peace process. And it demanded that Cuba return these ELN negotiators, basically ensuring that they would be killed upon return. And Cuba did the right thing. It did the principled thing. And it did no more than what was stipulated in the agreements it had committed to, which was to simply not rescind its right to host these negotiators and to keep them in Cuba in the hopes that the process would kick back in. The Colombian government basically pushed and basically forced the US government's hand to act on this as the official excuse for why Cuba needed to be so-called a sponsor of terrorism. The sad thing is that this excuse has been debunked so many times. In fact, after the government of Pedro, only a few days after being elected, after coming into power, the first statement they make as a government is Cuba does not belong on that list. Why? Because it's thanks to Cuba that we can now say that we have even the embers left still of a peace process. And I think that's important to recognize that despite everything, Cuba essentially has been sacrificing its livelihood, the quality of life of its people. It's sacrificed millions of dollars in investments. It has sacrificed so much, essentially, for the peace of the people of Colombia, for the
I've
peace
got
of the
French
people
fries.
of the Latin American region. That says a lot about this country. What other country could say that it would be willing to put so much on the line
Hey, Kay.
simply to
Welcome,
safeguard a negotiations process? In fact, we know that the US, in many similar conditions, has done quite the opposite. The US is
Make sure
not
you
a
follow
sponsor
Kay.
of peace, but actually should be recognized as a sponsor of terrorism. And we saw it again this past week when, for the second time since 2020, a terrorist attack was held against the Cuban embassy in Washington, D.C., and yet no
my
high
Instagram.
official,
What's going on in
no
my Instagram?
one in the State Department, no one in the White House, no one in the US government has said publicly, we condemn this act of terrorism against the Cuban people that took place on US soil. Who is the sponsor of terrorism and who is the sponsor of peace is a question that continues to have a clear answer in the rest of the world, except for the US, except for Washington.
You know, last week, President of Cuba, Miguel Diaz-Canel, was in New York City for the United Nations General Assembly. And I think it was an interesting counterpoint to many of the things that, you're told about how America feels about Cuba. Many people here in the United States, it seems, were eager to welcome him and to participate in activities where he was also participating. Talk, if you could, about that and some of the people-to-people exchanges that took place between Cuba and Americans here last week.
Well, it was a very busy week at the UN General Assembly. I mean, it was the 70th high-level segment where you had hundreds of dignitaries and political leaders coming from around the world. But I think something particular this time was that Cuba wasn't just coming to represent Cuba. Miguel Diaz-Canel was coming not just as the head of the Cuban delegation, but as president of the Group of 77 plus China, which represents 80% of the world's population. It's the largest negotiating bloc inside the United Nations. And the message that he came with was very, I would say, moving, compounding, full of energy and full of, I would say, the demands of the global South, which is saying that the world cannot continue to live under the current and existing economic order in which the global South essentially has to render tribute to the global North in exchange for crumbs. And I think it was important for the Cuban president that he highlighted during this trip and in multiple speeches at the UN that development and so the so-called sustainable development goals are a dream or a pipe dream are far, thought utopia when the US and its allies continue to use sanctions as a tool of foreign policy against countries that they don't agree with sovereign countries, not just Cuba, but Eritrea, but Zimbabwe, with the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, and so many other countries around the world who continue to face the violence of these US policies. That is why it was important, not just that the Cuban delegation came to the United Nations for these historic, important exchanges and speeches, but that they engage also with the American people. That there was an exchange between activists, with organizers, with scientists, with religious leaders, with so many different sectors of the people of the United States who disagree with their government and who understand that the only possible way for the future, for a shared future, a future where we all fit, is to actually be in dialogue with leaders like Miguel Diaz-Canel and others from around the global south. And it was remarkable that the president took time out of his schedule, out of his very busy schedule, to join protesters who were out in front of the Cuban mission in solidarity with the Cuban people, in defiance of the US blockade. He came out and thanked a large group of young people. He then joined the next day a powerful rally held at the New York Society for Ethical Culture, where with 800 young people from across the United States, he spoke firmly about how the Cuban people will continue fighting for their socialist project, but they will do so in unity with the young people of the United States who also are fighting and building the hope for socialism in our lifetimes.
Based.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty incredible that you have Cuba representing this organization, the G77 plus China, that you said represents 80% of the world. So that means that 80% of the world does not see Cuba as a state sponsor of terrorism. At least 80% of the world. Otherwise, they wouldn't be putting a state sponsor of terrorism in charge of a group like that. It says a lot.
Thank you very much
but
for
Manolo,
the
you know, you
days,
do spend
Comrade.
time in
Appreciate that.
Cuba. Every now and then you were there recently. So I think it's important to contextualize for people the on the ground impact of these sorts of policies. And it's not just, I mean, you know, Cuba's already under blockade and unfortunately has had to learn to live with it and to adjust to the blockade. And like you mentioned, I mean, the state sponsor of terrorism adds so many new elements and restrictions that, you know, affect the average person. So what does that look like in Cuba on the ground?
I mean,
that's
for
hilarious.
me, it's terrible every time I go to Cuba to see the growing impact of what is not just a reinforced blockade by all of Trump and now Biden's 243 sanctions, but the impact of being on the list. And one of the areas where you see it most clearly is in the growing difficulty of Cuba being able to purchase fuel and petrochemicals for just the everyday running of society. I mean, imagine what it is like to live in a country where there is less and less fuel available. What does it mean for the children who have to go to school? What does it mean for the workers who have to go to work? What does it mean for electricity? I mean, it's creating great challenges for the Cuban people. And at the origin of it is this horrible list that honestly, any bank in the world that wishes to deal with any Cuban financial transaction has to think not just twice, but has to think 100 times over as to whether it can even do so, even if it's done so in the past. So it just makes every aspect of Cuban life much more difficult. Could say the same thing regarding food. I could say the same thing regarding to a series of other aspects of Cuban life that have just become difficult. That's why our movement, our slogan, our campaign is so focused around the simplicity of simply let Cuba live. Why can't we let Cuba just be and develop on its own terms? Why does the United States continue to have this undeclared war on the Cuban people for the last 60 years, which again does not even give them the right to just breathe on their own land and to build their own futures? Not only is that inhumane, not only is that cruel, but it's just plain wrong. And we believe that millions of people around the world will actually come together in defiance of this. That's why we are collecting over 1 million signatures, all the way from Brazil to India, from Morocco to South Africa, from New York City to California. We are collecting millions of signatures that are affirming that ultimately the people of the world will have the last word, not the US government. The people of the world stand with the people of Cuba.
And since you referenced the Let Cuba Live campaign launched by the International People's Assembly, the million signature effort, where can people find out more about this, Manolo?
Well, we have a great website. It's called letcubalive.info, where you will find all the information on this campaign, who are the many organizations around the world, movements, trade unions, political parties of the left that have joined it. You will find important figures ranging from Evo Morales, former president of Bolivia, to many others around the world who stood up with the message of Let Cuba Live. And most importantly, you will be able to sign directly
Evo
on the
Morales
website
is based.
and also download a printout sheet so that if you want to take your list to your job site, to your school, to your place of entertainment, you do that so that it's not just your voice that is claiming and saying this, but that it's truly the voices of millions around the world who stand with Cuba.
Mm-hmm. Manolo de los Santos, co-executive director of the People's Forum. As always, thank you for giving us some of your time here on the Freedom Side.
Thank you so much.
Great talk. Okay, there you go. Oh, hold on, comrades. We got a breaking story just in. This just in.
In a desperate attempt to fill 24 hours of programming, here's some bullshit that happened somewhere today. We've got some footage here of the bullshit, which began just after 3 o'clock this afternoon, when residents in this neighborhood were shocked to see this fairly common thing happening. An attractive witness described the event in breathless terms.
I went to my window and I was like, whoa, there's some bullshit happening.
That happened right over there. I'm an older man, so you can trust what I say.
Authorities in special uniforms rushed to the scene to stand around while our cameras filmed them. Our reporter Keith Collins joins us now live from the scene of the bullshit through the use of expensive technology. Good to be with you again, Keith. We have a colorful graphic here that shows instances of bullshit like this are on the rise. Is that right?
Yes, although why is unclear. Some say it's because of one fucking reason. Others say it's because of some other fucking reason. I talked to this random expert on the subject who told me this thing you're about to hear him say right after he points at a piece of paper.
I spent my entire life attending the nation's most prestigious schools to talk about bullshit like this. I'm really just happy to be on TV.
Now let's see if we can drag this out a little longer by showing emails written by some of our viewers. I once saw some stuff kind of like the shit you're talking about happen. I have nothing more to add. Another person says, I am angry that things like this happen. I get mad about every bullshit thing I see. So obviously a lot of opinions there to make this story seem somewhat meaningful.
Oh, absolutely, Glenn. This bullshit has some broader implications. Here's a list of tips on how to avoid bullshit happening to you.
And here's some footage of Congress.
Yes, I see that.
Well, thank you, Keith. Let us know if there are any updates on this bullshit story from there.
There's no way there will be.
Very good. We'll check back with you in an hour anyway.
I'm just some fucking guy.
When we return, we'll look at live footage of a car chase taken from a helicopter and free associate about what's going on.
And that concludes our news for today.
John, you were.
That was just comedy. The last one was comedy, yes. I mean, no, it was news. All right, this right here was given to us by Comrade Strin Sam to watch. Let's see what this video is all about.
In Vietnam for the CIA, and as I understand you were up country. What years were you there?
73 to 75, right after the troop evacuation, and I came out in the evacuation of April of 75.
How long were you with the CIA?
13 years. I was a field case officer, served in Africa and Vietnam, and then eventually on a subcommittee of the National Security Council in Washington.
You were in Angola, were you not?
Well, I ran the Angolan covert action, but I ran it from Washington. These things are global, and as chief of the Angola task force, my office was in Washington.
When did you leave the CIA?
March 1977. I left to testify to the Senate and go public and try to write a book, which I did.
I'll get into that a little later. I'd like to talk to you about how what kind of experiences one has when one leaves the CIA and begins to talk. It must be very, very interesting. Let's talk about the function of the CIA. I think a lot of us have an impression that all the CIA does is gather intelligence. Intelligence is information, of course. Now, one would think that if you obtained information that was based upon fact, and if that is so, what did you do with it?
Well, one of the four principal functions of the CIA is to gather intelligence and ideally forward it to the president, the users of information, the policymakers, as they say. There are other functions, however, some of them more legitimate than others, One is to run secret wars, the covert action that's written and talked about so much, like what's happening in Nicaragua today from Honduras. Another thing is to disseminate propaganda to influence people's minds, and this is a major function of the CIA. And unfortunately, of course, it overlaps into the gathering of information. You have contact with a journalist, you will give him true stories, you'll get information from him, you'll also give him false stories.
Did you buy his confidence with true stories?
You buy his confidence and set him up. We've seen this happen recently with Jack Anderson, for example, who has his intelligence sources, and he has also admitted that he's been set up.
I love that emote politics.
Every fifth story just simply being false. You also work on their human vulnerabilities to recruit them in a classic sense, to make them your agent so that you can control what they do, so you don't have to set them up sort of, you know, by putting one over on them. So you can say, here, plant this one next Tuesday.
Can you do this with responsible reporters?
Yes, the Church Committee brought it out in 1975, and then Woodward and Bernstein put an article in Rolling Stone a couple of years later. 400 journalists cooperating with the CIA, including some of the biggest names in the business, to consciously introduce the stories into the press.
Well, give me a concrete example of how you use the press this way, how a false story is planted and how you got it published.
Well, for example, in my war, the Angola War that I helped to manage, 1/3 of my staff was propaganda. Ironically, it's called covert action inside the CIA. Outside, that means the violent part. I had propagandists all over the world, principally in London, Kinshasa, and Zambia. We would take stories which we would write and put them in the Zambia Times, and then pull them out and send them to a journalist on our payroll in Europe. But his cover story, you see, would be that he had gotten them from his stringer in Lusaka, who had gotten them from the Zambia Times. We had the complicity of the government of Zambia, Kenneth Kaunda, if you will, to put these false stories into his newspapers. But after that point, the journalists, Reuters and AFP, the management was not witting of it. Now, our contact man in Europe was, and we pumped just dozens of stories about Cuban atrocities, Cuban rapists. In one case, we had the Cuban rapists caught and tried by the Ovimbundu maidens who had been their victims, and then we ran photographs that made almost every newspaper in the
sort
country
of like every story
of
they
the
basically
Cubans
tell
being
about
executed
DPRK,
by the
North
Ovimbundu
Korea.
women who supposedly had been their victims.
These were fake photos?
Oh, absolutely. We didn't know of one single atrocity committed by the Cubans. It was pure, raw, false propaganda to create an illusion of communists, you know, eating babies for breakfast and that sort of totally false propaganda.
John, was this sort of thing practiced in Vietnam?
Oh, endlessly. A massive propaganda effort in Vietnam in the 50s and in the 60s, including the 1,000 books that were published, several hundred.
Pedro Pascal should play this guy in the movie. Yes.
In English, that were also propaganda
Welcome,
books,
Comrade.
sponsored by the
$27.
CIA. Give some money to a writer.
Great to see
write
you
this
here.
book for us. Write anything you want, but on these matters, make
Gotta
sure
get a
you know you
shout
have
out
this
for,
line.
Writers in this country,
$27
books
here.
sold and distributed in this country?
Sure, yeah. English language books, meaning an American audience as a
I have to
target on
imagine
the
most
subject
people
of
follow
Vietnam
me
and the
already
history.
follow 27, but highly entertaining stream that I recommend everybody participates in at night. It's great. I love hanging out in $27 stream.
Of Vietnam and the history of Marxism and
I've
supporting
got some
the domino
MEMEAGE up
theory,
after
Without
after this.
opening us up to
No
a
problem.
lawsuit,
No
could
problem.
you name one of them?
Your stream's great.
No, I could not. The church committee, when they found this out, demanded that they be given the titles so that the university libraries could at least go and stamp inside Central Intelligence Agency's version of history. And the CIA refused because it's been commissioned to protect its sources and methods, and the sources would be the authors who wrote these false propaganda books, some of whom
he used
are
to be
now
CIA operative, and he
distinguished
left in like the
scholars
70s.
and journalists.
Well, doesn't the CIA flatly deny They've admitted that there is some propaganda efforts, but their position is that those are all outside the United States, not in the United States. Isn't that true?
Absolutely. While we were running this Angolan operation and pumping these stories into the world and U.S. press, exactly that time, Bill Colby, the CIA director, was testifying to Congress, assuring them that we were extremely careful to make sure that none of our propaganda spilled back into the United States. And the very days that he was giving this false testimony, we were planting stories in the Washington Post. By that I mean not through Lusaka, but we actually flew a journalist from Paris to Washington to plant a false story. I mention it. I give the text of the story in my book.
Yeah. So you planted a story in the Washington Post by bringing a man from abroad. You had no difficulty, got right past the editor with it?
Yeah.
Is this common? Is it easy?
It's easier than you would think, yes.
It's
if
easier than you would think.
For example, if it's on the line of Grenada being radical today, we've had articles in the Washington Post, the Star before it closed, Time magazine, that could only have been written originally by the CIA, Soviet submarine base, terrorist training.
Yeah, so common.
Here's a little island where the major source of income is selling spice to the West, Western tourism,
China,
and a large
Cuba.
United States medical school. Tiny little island, 15 miles by 10 miles across, with 70,000 people, with U.S. medical students in their cutaways and sandals and their noses in books, wandering all over the island. And yet, major press organs, Time magazine, running stories about their being so radical.
In Vietnam, John, what was your relationship, what was your role in relation to the press?
Well, mine being the CIA's role, it was multifaceted. There were officers in the embassy, CIA officers, high-ranking officers. Frank Snepp was one, not high-ranking, but he was at in the chief of station's office, who met with the press regularly. It shared information with them, gave them information, and got information from them, and then periodically would put some story into that would be false, but also in other cases very valuable to the journalist. So even hard-nosed journalists who would never willfully cooperate with the CIA would consider it a useful source. At the same time, there are all kinds of people, you know, as journalists and case officers, many other case officers were really quite afraid of the press. We up country, when journalists would come up nosing around, we would hide and let the AID officer talk to them.
I think someone said 27 that he moved out of the country.
Allusion to what we were doing. That would be unfortunate to our careers.
They knew who you were. They knew you were CIA.
Everyone always knows who the CIA people are. Let there be no doubt whatsoever. This
His
is
best
one of the
chance
biggest
at
farces
still
that
breathing
the
would
CIA
have
and
been
Congress
doing
have
that,
put
I
on the
imagine.
American people. We, as Moynihan said, Patrick Moynihan said in testifying against this Official Secrets Act recently, he said at the UN, he said they swaggered around like Texas cowboys in 10-gallon hats and high-heeled boots. In Vietnam, we had yellow dots and sequential license plates.
Oh yeah, we're gonna watch
So
this
if you
one,
had a
Sam,
yellow
sometime.
Datsun and 144 on your license plate, you had to be CIA, and everybody knew it. Up country, we had emerald green Jeeps, and the Army had olive drab, and AID had gray Jeeps. And if you had a green Jeep, you had to be CIA. And any denial of that was only tongue-in-cheek perfunctory. Certainly journalists knew the difference.
What a disillusionment. You're telling us that a spook is not a spook.
Alan Dulles wrote in his book, The Craft of Intelligence, you know, the famous CIA director. In the foreword of his book, he says, an intelligence agent, contrary to popular opinion, has to be known as such. Otherwise, people with secrets won't know where to take them. He set up the policy, the precedent of traveling the world each year and assembling his case officers in hotels.
Yeah, we did.
And having
we
what
did.
you could only describe as a
Of
sales
course.
conference.
So did
Meetings in the hotel rooms.
Such a fan of
breakfast,
27
lunch, and dinner,
streams.
and
I
drinks
just showed him
together in
out
the
right
hotel
away.
rooms.
John,
You're talking about not an underworld. You're talking about ranking, privileged members of the police brotherhood of the world. CIA officers are not in danger. Terrorists don't hit them. In every country where they can, they establish liaison with the local police. And inside the veils of, you know, their secrecy and protection, they're not fearful and they're not playing cover games. They're having lunch with the police chief.
John, I'd like to
Having lunch
I'd
with
like
the
to
police
find out
chief.
what makes a man like John Stockwell tick. One, why were you in the CIA? Two, why did you quit the CIA? And I'd like to find out what has happened since you quit the CIA and began speaking as openly as you've spoken to us.
And hello from what the settlers call New Scotland.
The question as complicated as the dilemma facing the society about the CIA today. I went in a Marine captain, conservative background. My father was an engineer in Africa, contracting to build for a Presbyterian mission, and I grew up in the Belgian Congo. About as conservative as you can get, I guess.
In a missionary atmosphere?
On a mission station with an engineering father, but humanist principles, high ideals, false, unrealistic ideals for the world. Education at the University of Texas, my service in the Marine Corps, active duty, all very exciting between
Definitely
wars.
should visit someday, 27.
Force reconnaissance company, parachuting and locking out of submarines, very glamorous, but between wars, no one getting shot, no moral issues, if you will. And then the CIA recruited me right at the end of the Kennedy
Las Vegas,
era. He'd just been shot. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And all of the propaganda that had been put out on the American people against communism, the height of the domino theory, and my own naivete, thinking I was educated when in fact I was not. And I thought, going into the CIA, that I was doing the best thing I possibly could with my life in the noblest ideals of our society. Thinking I was
I do remember that,
mankind
Red Falcon.
by making the world free for
Love
democracy.
to see your Lunu ass up here for sure.
13 years and 3 secret wars to realize how absolutely false that was, and the Church Committee's revelation simultaneously to the Vietnam and then the Angolan thing. It just took me that long to see the thing from a totally different light. And my basic ideals have certainly never changed in terms of basic humanism, basic sympathy for the people of the world. A service to this country that goes back so far, I don't even have to deal with detractors, I feel, who say I'm a traitor or whatnot. That's silly with the things that I've done with my life. But I think we are drifting from the values that we teach
Falcon,
ourselves.
if you were to
in
get that,
school
can you cross the border like
democracy,
easily
of
if you're
freedoms.
staying in
I think
territory?
we're selling out to a very small police organization who is absorbing American principles about as fast as the judicial and legislative processes can absorb them, freedoms of speech and press, and at the same time are continuing policies of killing in every corner of the world, right now in Nicaragua and El Salvador. I think I deplore that morally, but I also think it's extremely dangerous because it could flash so easily into a world confrontation with the Soviet, to the Holocaust, to the nuclear war.
Well, what has happened? What has happened to you since you left the CIA and started speaking like this?
Well, I've been sued by the CIA. I've been threatened
by
the
the CIA.
I have not been beaten or mauled. I have exercised my right, as I see it, to speak out and lectured at length. They've made it very clear they don't appreciate it. And like I say, I've been warned that dire things could happen to me, but I don't know if these were bluffs.
You don't say they don't
has
appreciate it.
I've been sued for damages by the CIA, which is a certain irony when you think about it.
Sued for damages by the fucking CIA. And you know what's funny, March, what you mentioned up here about that's why imperialists start to demonize countries that implement anti-corruption measures. Like, think about what went on with the U.S. or with the U.S., like the way the propaganda ramped right up almost immediately after China caught all those CIA officers, those spies. They did like a big anti-corruption drive, and the CIA admitted like they caught most of their agents. Found that pretty fun. These days, former CIA agents, directors just get to go on TV or write op-eds by willing capitalist media. They get used to like plant distraction stories like this whole alien thing that we saw, right? The whole alien whistleblower guy. Like, come on. Tell me they didn't give him a severance package and they're like, all right, you're gonna go on TV and you're gonna distract everybody from this Ukraine proxy war that we got going on or some shit, right? We divert our attention towards Taiwan, which is, I always try to point out to you, comrades, like when we're talking about those right-wing clowns that, like, for example, a while ago had the Stop the War Machine movement. Like, they didn't really care about ending the war, right? Like, that's the most asinine part about the whole Stop the War Machine thing, was really what they wanted to do was just divert all the attention to China, right? That's all they were about. It's not stop the war machine. It's like, let's change the course of what we're doing here. The CIA is like a mob. You never really leave. 100%. In the middle of reading the Jakarta Doctrine right now, mostly about the slaughtering of Indonesian communists, but they go into great detail about the actions taken by U.S. and Central and South America. Death squads, yep. Yeah, and against communists all over the world. Like, I mean, we just finished reading, actually, this book. I do a little bit of helping out over here with Iskra Books. And we just published this official English translation of Domenico Lusardo's Stalin History and Critique of a Black Legend. Really, really good book. Really, like, highly detailed, goes into more detail than you could ever imagine. And right at the end, it does talk about some of, like, the actions by the CIA and the US in these other countries, like including Indonesia, the Philippines, and other places where the US has had a direct role in trying to attack communism. And also, of course, as we know, always equated to Nazism. That's their favorite thing. And that's really what this whole book is about, denouncing that whole notion about communism and the USSR specifically being like the twin of somehow Nazi Germany, the country it defeated. I know, GMO. We do try and get into more like leftist bookstores and stuff, you know? We are in some, it's just we're a small team of passionate communists, and it's pretty much a passion project. They killed 1 million communists in Indonesia between 62 and 64, yeah. And I mean, 27, they did the same shit in what, you know, we always hear about this channel. I defend DPRK a lot. We hear about how, you know, DPRK is this authoritarian place, but it was the South that was literally murdering communists. Like, even up until very recently, there was concentration camps. Hey Vivian, welcome, comrade. It's like this same Orwellian strategy that they always use, you know? They hold up the mirror and tell you, like, they tell you that, like, what they're doing to their enemies is actually what their enemies are doing. It's like this Orwellian propaganda strategy that they've had going on forever. And it just works because it's all over the place. Someone give Comrade Vivian a shout out, please. And like I say, you know, we can all relate it back to that great Perenni quote. And this applies to any, you know, capitalist country where the capital is the real thing that directs the news. Even more than any individual capitalist, it's the interests of capital that direct the news, right? There is no independent press. The notion of a free market of ideas is as mythical as the notion of a free market of goods. And it's true, if you think about it, because, like, even if we are to have any kind of success in a revolution or anything like that, do you think we're then just going to allow fascists to have newspapers and stuff? Hell no. Hell no, we're not. You know? Alright, I got one last piece of agitprop for you all, and then we'll get into the little bit of memeage I got for the day. I was laughing at a comrade, I'll get into it in a second, about the moon landing. So I just had to look up a couple videos. So this is the flag raising ceremony. I missed it the other day for anniversary for China. Yeah, that's the thing. You gotta like protect your country from being carpet bombed. 100% Bama. I guess Ben Norton moved to China, I was hearing the other day. Yep. If Libya's taught us anything, if you have shit the USA is scared of, keep it. Absolutely. And I mean, not only Libya, but the USSR itself did this thing, right? Like if you listen to Prunty talking about the arms chase, in many ways, when USSR gave up its arms chase was when the US sort of felt a freer hand to just go in and undermine it in all these different ways possible and make all these different demands from them. Yeah, there's a reason why DPRK, like, you know, did build nukes and proclaim itself to be a nuclear state, and I mean, other socialist countries as well, because that is literally what prevents invasion. And like the way they use their nukes is a whole different class character, if you will. Their nukes are not only defensive for the country, but in a bargaining chip for if there's denuclearization, the West has to also denuclearize as well. And like I pointed out for DPRK, of course, we know they developed the nuclear weapons in response to what was going on with Libya and other countries around them. But now it is also a bargaining chip for them to go, well, we're not going to meet you on an equal footing, right? If you want to do business with us, you have to have equal terms with us. Yeah. Which is and 27, the thing about that narrative that really drives me up the wall, it's like when there was hunger problem in DPRK, it was the US that was doing everything they could to make it worse, including the sanctions and everything else. This is the flag raising ceremony for China's National Day, okay? But they, I mean, when they had their food problem, when they had it was drought and everything else, the West, instead of helping, of course, they upped the sanctions. They sent CIA agents to buy cow tails in order to like harm production on individual farms. And then you look at DPRK today, and here's a country that provides all of its citizens with a supply of food in addition to what they purchase with, you know, their income. It's like we live in some of the richest countries in the world, and there's fucking hunger on our First Nations communities and in other communities. So, like, who is the US or Canada to be a moral authority on DPRK, who is, you know, guaranteed housing for its citizens, guaranteed food for its citizens now, guaranteed education, like, and healthcare in a way that even Canada doesn't do. Americans focused on what happened to Otto Warmbier in North Korea. Absolutely. Otto Warmbier was like the perfect. It's just like how with like the Twin Towers, you know, whether or not it was somehow the U.S. had a hand in it, it still provided a convenient casus belli for them, which is the same as what Otto Warmbier was. And I mean, the whole. I end up always having to debunk the Otto thing because it's like we always hear it put in mainstream media as, oh, Otto just went to the DPRK, innocent American tourist, you know, and you know how those Americans like to violate the law, so he just like violated the law and stole a poster, and therefore he was sentenced to hard labor. And now, of course, the narrative recently came out that they torture him, according to U.S. mainstream media. But like, what's left out of all of this is, first of all, he wasn't tortured. There was multiple international doctors that looked at him and said there was no signs of physical or mental torture of any kind. And this was before he was brought back to U.S. He died in the U.S. He got botula or some sort of, they don't even know for sure. They think either botula or sudden loss of air to him for some reason. And the reason why we don't have evidence is because his parents literally refused any kind of autopsy to actually like find out the cause of death. And furthermore, what make this all even worse, he didn't just go to DPRK and steal a poster. He was trying to get into this thing called the Z Society, which is like an Ivy League after school like fraternity club, right? And part of their like one of their things that they do is initiation, and they're famous for this, is to like go and contribute to color revolution in this South American country, or go and do this in this other country in Europe, right? Like some sort of subversive action. And their initiation for him was go to the DPRK, go to a military area only, and steal this like hand piece of artwork or something like that. So what you have to realize is now under international law, what you have is like an actual planned act of espionage and sabotage, like by any international standards. Entering a military area only and fucking stealing some sort of like artifact from there. Like imagine if someone from any country did that in the US, what the fuck would happen to them? They wouldn't even make it to trial, right? Like, so it's so dishonest, like, cause you have to understand what he was doing. And what is funny about what we were listening to about that CIA agent earlier is the CIA and government agencies also operate like this and use unfortunate students like Otto Warmbier as little pawns in their fucking game to sow color revolution and dissent and whatever else across the world. It's gross. So, and yeah, it's a tragedy that Otto was killed, but his death is not on DPRK's hands, it's on the US's hands, who's allows like the Z Society to, for some reason, have its students go and do these subversive acts in other countries for initiation. For what? Like, it makes no sense to me. How is that allowed? But that's the US. So, I mean, the Otto story, there's so much left out of it, right? And then, yeah, when he got caught stealing the poster, he was given 15 years of labor because DPRK doesn't have fines. When you break the law for some serious crime in DPRK, that's what you're sentenced to. You get labor. Everybody gets labor. And it's not labor like in the US or Canada even, where you're like sent off to a penal colony and you work in a chain gang or some such thing. Instead, as you know, DPRK, of course, really needs labor and in fact has labor shortages. Everybody is guaranteed employment. So these people just basically, these people go to other places, like other farms, other fucking factories and help actual people there. Yeah, I know. I put a big cooldown on the Korg. I know. But yeah, so there. That's I mean, I have talked about Otto before, but yeah. That's my take on Otto Warmbier, and I've talked about it before, right? His death is a tragedy, but on the hands of the US at the end of the day. Right. And also used to keep US citizens from traveling to DPRK so you can see what it's actually like. I would love to travel there, but I myself am a prisoner in the US or in Canada because you see I got caught with some marijuana one time, so now I'm not allowed to leave the country. And now that marijuana is illegal, they didn't do. You think they'd grant any kind of general amnesty? No, no. Of course not. Yeah, exactly, Kay. The doctor who went to the DPRK to check him and bring him back said there were no signs of torture and he was well taken care of. But the media never mentions that. And not only one doctor, Cinnamon, like multiple doctors looked at him, like from all over the world, including US doctors. And then when he gets back, his parents refuse to do an autopsy. Like, you know, someone is getting paid here. And it's tragic that Otto was used like a pawn like that, but geez, fuck. They just use it as this tool to then say, okay, now Americans can't travel there. It's funny because all the people from Britain and Europe and everywhere else I know that have been traveling there in the meantime, you know, save for the COVID crisis, which we know is not actually over. But all the world opened up before the DPRK did. But that's another thing. But all my comrades who travel there, I have comrades who went to Kim Il Sung University. I have friends who have given social science conference talks there. So when they visit, a lot of these comrades don't have guides like other tourists do. And I mean, we hear about the country from them, which is why I encourage like people again to look up alternate sources, like the UK KFA. Stay the hell away from the Anglo one. There's some other good sources as well. Um, and look at DPRK publications themselves. Look at China state media and weigh it with the mainstream media and with our own leftist media networks as well, where we have people like on the ground learning these things. Right. We're gonna get into what I was talking about earlier in the stream. Have you any of you comrades ever encountered someone who like, you know, the cranks, we'll call them, who say about the moon landing was faked and like what they did was use CGI to take out the backgrounds or to put in new backgrounds or to fake it somehow. It's like this is CGI from the 1979. This is CGI from 79 right here.
Clearly shows the metamorphosis possible using computer graphics.
You telling me they're faking the moon landing with these graphics? And this is 79. You can imagine what they were like in the 60s, right? Yeah, the moon truth. I mean, what another thing that's funny about it, right, Falcon, is we know that China has like orbited the moon and actually been able to take pictures of one of the lunar landing sites. So yeah, can you imagine them? And again, that's 79. They're gonna fake the fucking moon with that, are they? This here is 1984, LucasArts. Some of you have probably seen this one before. But again, 84. Thanks, China. Another common W for China, 27. Common China W. That was real footage of an egg turning into a real man. It's true, Shin. It's true. Welcome, by the way. Hope you are well. Like, this is the pinnacle of CGI in the 80s. Still looks better than the Marvel movies. Oh god, yeah, and the plot's better too. Yeah, well, it's 1984, so yeah, it looks really fucking good, I gotta say. Looks better than the last couple years of CGI. I like how many chat members are saying this now. Great. Yeah, 84. So that's why I was saying, right? Like, that's the pinnacle of CGI in 84. You're telling me that they used CGI in the 60s to fake the moon landing? Some of these cranks make no sense. Yeah, but much better plot in that than we do see in the Marvel movies, I will admit. And I've been known to indulge, okay? I'm not shaming anybody. I do indulge in the Marvel movies sometimes, because I like a little bit of weird eye candy sometimes too, but God. The Marvel movies have the worst, like, plot lines ever. Yeah, hopefully the VFX unions can get us back on track. That would be nice. That would be nice. Star Wars was like 1979 and looked way better than any of the better CGI. This. Yeah, the last one is Revenge. That's right. All right, we're gonna take a little memeage break here with some funny kittens, because you know how much I love kittens. And then I've got the Trailer Park Boys shit for the day here too. I love camp stuff. I really want to watch, like, in our Discord sometime. By the way, Comrade, we have a great Discord community. Vivian Vampire can tell you that. I'm only one recognized streamer in our Discord
technology
of amazing Discord streamers.
How sleeping like a boss looks like.
Just make sure you answer the 5 questions when you come in.
Hello,
Let them know you're
buddy.
from the Leaping Larry stream and I'll add you to my tag. I want to watch a movie for Halloween. I want to watch Troll 2. Like one of the best, campiest movies of all time. The dialogue is too
the cat's
much.
blind spot is such a brilliant idea.
It's so good, the dialogue. There's another really funny one too. I don't know if you comrades have seen it, called
this dish is delicious.
See if I can find it here.
Any thieves would
Got
be
it in my
scared if they
collection.
saw this.
Oh yeah. Return of the Night of the Living Dead.
If The Lion King had a live action, this would be it. Now, humans are no longer needed.
To find it. It's like Return of the... Return of the Dead or something? Here it is.
Vivid example of how the life of a king happened.
Oh, the kitties. Look. Have you comrades ever seen this one? Highly recommended and fucking it's funny. It's raunchy, but it's hilarious. Yeah, Return of the Living Dead. Fucking good.
whoa, whoa, whoa. Who are you, sir?
We love cats around here.
When his brain stops braining.
Naboo, the door is open. Just go around.
I like dogs. I just happen to be more of a cat person.
Now we know who rules the house.
My fiance really does
Hip-hop
want a dog.
can't stop
So
spreading.
we'll have to get a dog. We'll one day have to
Is
get a
this
little
food
dog.
or a toy?
St. Lotus. Cat people are cat comrades. All comrades love cats.
You're not a baby anymore, kitty.
That probably does mean that cat was taken away
Those
from its
eyes are
mother a
full
bit
of
too young,
judgment.
actually, you know?
Snake, 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 pickle, no. Snake, 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 snake.
We have Tatai as an emote.
Processing
He's our
food
dance
gives him
emote.
much complex emotion.
Macy, it's so frustrating. Your feet are dirty.
Clear instruction on how to hypnotize a cat.
What is Lily doing? That's Burley.
Burley.
Oh, Burley. Burley.
Didn't Rosa Luxemburg write about Lenin meeting her cat? Or was that someone else? Oh!
One place, two
Yeah,
are happy.
yeah. Was that Rosa Luxemburg? Oh yeah, I have to find that. I think you're right. It was like Rosa Luxemburg is writing about
The
Lenin
boy
meeting
is
her
simply a
cat.
bigot. It's about punches and kicks until one does something funny.
What was that little head shake?
The worst way to invite someone to a date.
It comes right up with the Google search, really?
Only hot milk can
What the fuck
satisfy
is
their
this?
taste.
What the hell have you sent me, Falcon? Your surrounding the heir to Iltsador is shouting outside your gate. Falcon always sending the quality content. Jeez.
Mmm, so good and tasty.
I love when their tongues
Seems
get
like a
stuck
sweet
out.
dream.
Falcon is in a silly mood today. Oh, well, you're gonna like my Trailer Park Boys clips that I got today then.
When your cat gets up too early.
Steven, you're looking the wrong way.
The battle to become the most handsome cat.
Uh-oh. Yeah, that mirror has fallen on him before. He knew to run away as soon as it started moving. Follow our Comrade Red Falcon, please, at the top of the page.
Proof that yawn
Does
can
some
be
gaming
spread.
sometimes. I have 4 cats. I don't think it's enough. Yeah, my fiance is the same way. We got 3 cats.
It's difficult to
She
play
keeps
hide and
talking
seek
about
when
bringing
you're a
home
white
more.
cat. The definition of laziness.
Now my cat actually, Ty, the cat that's in the logo and stuff.
Hey,
he likes to like put his head
come
over
on,
the
just
water
one
and have
bite.
the water drip down his head and drink it that way.
Loneliness can make you look like this.
Mimi impressed Lenin tremendously. He said that only in Siberia had he seen such a magnificent creature, that she was a Basque caught a majestic cat. He also flirted with him,
How
rolled
can
on
this
her
beauty
back, and
exist?
behaved enticingly toward him. But when he tried to approach her, she whacked him with the paw and snarled like a tiger. That is the best fucking quote I've ever read.
What's in that box that can scare a cat?
Yep, that's a cat.
How to identify young and old cat.
Plants, how are your first messages always like this? Just saying, if you die alone in your house, your cat will almost immediately eat you.
They must have practiced a lot.
This message brought to you by Dog Gang. Plants! You're ruining our cat time.
His free will breaks those
Oh
walls.
no, now they're uh-oh. We got a faction
Sharing
growing,
toys
comrades.
is not its style.
Sectarians, splitters, factionalists.
He's definitely not an Italian cat.
These left communists think they know pets better.
Life of a vagabond belongs to the roads.
I love it. I love that idea. Aw. Okay, we're getting to that.
Wait, what?
Lesbian
Where
outside.
is he? Isn't he just
You've
here?
told us that many times. Don't worry, we're all aware.
If life has already been too easy, let's learn from this cat.
Right. These next videos about I'm gonna do the
That's how cats are designed. They're so stubborn.
This was my cat this morning with her bed. Oh. Let me see if I can upload it to you, comrades. Wait.
And that's all for today. Thanks for watching and see you soon in the next video.
I will Bird Gang. Okay. I can get down with the Bird Gang, Falcon, as you know. Duck Gang, Duck Gang. Alright, let me upload this picture. I'm gonna upload this little video of my cat here. Because she was doing funny stuff this morning. I think you'll all appreciate it. It is sort of more of a goose. I mean, they're equally related to. It's a Muscovy duck, so technically it's equally related to a goose and a duck. True story. I heard that Canadian gooses can like beat you up and they're full of anger. I mean, if you piss them off, fuck yeah. Yeah, Muscovy, they're called. I guess, Russian, like, they're originally from Mexico, and from my understanding, I guess, like, Russian name them? Yeah, these guys are pretty chill, I gotta say, overall. Pretty chill, pretty chill. Look at this, the comrade just sent this, it's awesome. The various types of names for cat in Russian. Meme cat, little lady cat. Small kitty, sweet kitty. Look at this. Boss cat. Stray cat, chonky boy. Awesome. Yeah, don't fuck with geese. They can fuck you up. It's true. Lenin is convinced that he would beat up a goose, and I keep telling him, you don't know goose, man. It'll fuck you up. It will mess your day up, Lenin. Okay, so now we're gonna get to the trailer park boys bit. Before I do, I do want to point out that you know, if you enjoy the content, consider subbing or a gift sub or some biddies. And actually, I think Bubbles has a message for you all.
Hi there. Yeah, I haul shopping carts out of ponds and sell them back to the store for a living. I've been doing it for 18 years. So give me a fucking check, please.
There you go. How did you get them to love me? What, the Muscovy? I mean, they only love me when I got food, to be fair. I mean, they love me because they think I got food all the time, but... The goose is gonna take my fingers. Oh no, I won't let it do that. But yeah, food is the key. It does tend to work. Birds are very food driven, you know, they gotta eat a lot. Ultra was convinced you had mealworms today. Okay, I'll have to order some mealworms for the duckies, I guess. They do like their mealworms, but you can't feed it to them when they're young, because if they have too much or too little of their nutrients, then they can get angel wing.
It's all for one motherfucker and one motherfucker for all motherfuckers everywhere, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly. I don't understand. That is... Oh, I see. Thank you, J-Rock. Thank you for that. Check this out. Here's...
Careful, you're gonna spook the cocksucker. We can make a fucking fortune off this, Bubbles. Keep him in a cage, sell tickets on like they did with Donkey Kong. That was King Kong, Ricky. No, his son, Donkey. Remember the video game with him and his Mexican uncle, Loogie? Like they live in Hong Kong? Anyway, they're probably rich as fuck.
And this is where they took from the intro from. I wanted to show you the rest of the scene.
It's Thursday.
Cracks me up.
Really? Feels like Tuesday. Tuesday has no feel. Monday has a feel. Friday has a feel. Sunday has a feel.
I feel Tuesday and Wednesday.
All right, shut up, the both of you.
You're making me nervous. Where is he already? He should have been out of work by now.
Hey, you know, this is kind of fun.
Yeah. You know, maybe we ought to become private detectives. Yeah, maybe you should. Maybe I will.
Yeah, me too.
All right, what are you going to say to him? I'm just going to find out if he's interested.
Hey, maybe I should go in with him.
No, you stay here in the car.
Who made you leader?
All right, Newman. One more peep out of you. You're out of the whole operation. There he is. He's going into that bar.
That's when he gets in the bar here.
All right. I'm going in. Be careful, Kramer.
Yes,
I should have gone in with him.
No, you stay here in the car. I may need you.
What
do you need me in the car
It is a coke plot, yeah.
I might need you to get me a soda.
I'll have a brewski, Charlie.
Name's Mitch.
Well, there's nothing like a cold one after a long day, huh? Oh, yeah. I've been known to drink a beer or two. But then again, I've been known to do a lot of things. Cigarette?
No, I never touch them.
Well, I suck them down like Coca-Cola. Well, here's to feeling good all the time.
Here's the feeling good all the time. I've never heard of that dessert.
Looks like you got yourself a little cold there, huh, fella?
I don't think so.
Me neither.
You should try this new Dental Floss Glide. It's fantastic.
I use dental tape.
You should try this.
I don't want to.
Not even once?
No.
Yeah, you're an idiot.
What? So you use dental tape?
Right. Anyone who uses dental tape is an idiot.
South America?
Yeah.
Well, that's a burgeoning continent.
Well, they are expanding their economic base, yeah.
Tell me about it.
Excuse me, I gotta go to the bathroom.
I'm hip.
Hip to what?
To the whole scene.
What scene?
The bathroom scene.
Listen, don't take this personally, but when I come back,
You want me
I'm
to
sitting
do a
over
baking
there.
stream?
Whatever turns you on.
You want me to do a cooking stream? Is that what this is?
No, I don't like it.
My
What do you mean you don't
fiance
like
is
it? How
saying,
could you
"Yes,
not like
please."
it?
I like the thick tape.
Make some bran muffins. What do you think, Chad? Should I do a baking stream?
Hey! What kind of nut are you? Should I be getting paid for this, boy?
Look, there, someone just sent this in chat. This is the strawberry. What is it? Trifle? Is that how you fucking say that? Strawberry trifle. Looks pretty fucking good. Layers of sherry soaked sponge, Hellish compote, custard cream, fresh strawberries come together to create a classic example of the British dessert. All right. I would eat it. Beyonce approves. She used to make it when she worked at the nursing home. It's an all British thing. Yeah. We'll have to do a baking one sometime. Tiramisu. That's pretty good, yep. Hey, Alex Mercer, welcome in. Here we go.
Should I be getting paid for this, boys?
Yes, Bubbles, get high. This is fun.
That water bomb's so smooth, you don't realize how high you're getting. Till it's too late. Channel 2. VHF, what's that now? Basambu, now it's late. Thirsty snack, but it's late. Ricky, I am fucked up out here. I don't mean to interrupt your meat stealing operation there, boys, but I need to keep talking to you till you get back. I'm freaking out a little bit. Dial this number. It's the key to traveling quick. Oh, I'm fucking high.
I fucking love that so much. Okay.
사랑할 때면 저국을 사랑할 때면 용서 숨지네 지칠 줄 모르는 열정 한마음 저국에 바치는 것이 참다운 보람이기에 심장에 더운 피를 끓이네 뜨겁게 사랑할 때면 사랑할 때면 저국을 사랑할 때면 두렵지 않네 두렵지 않네 폭풍이 휘몰아쳐도 한마음 저국에 바치는 것이 돕는 행복이기에 고난이 막아서는 나아가네 웃으며 영감이 변함없으리 불같은 우리의 사랑 그 품을 위해 그 품을 위해 무엇도 서슴없으리 한마음 저국에 바치는 것이 제일 큰 영광이기에
You also know I always leave us with a quote. We got 3 songs for us as we roll out. Reminds you of Thailand a lot. Makes sense. Definitely makes sense to a degree. Why would?
Артиллеристы зовет отчизна нас. Из многих тысяч батарей за слезы наших матерей, за нашу родину. Огонь, огонь. Узнай, родная мать, узнай, жена, подруга. Узнай, далекий дом и вся моя семья. Что бьет и жжет врага, стальная наша вьюга. Что боль мы несем в родимые края. Артиллеристы, точный дан приказ. Артиллеристы, зовет отчизна нас. Из многих тысяч батарей за слезы наших матерей, за нашу родину. Огонь, огонь. Пробьет победы час, придет конец похода. Но прежде чем уйти к домам своим родным, в честь партии родной, в честь нашего народа, мы радостный салют в полночный час дадим. Артиллеристы, точный дан приказ. Артиллеристы, зовет отчизна нас. Из многих тысяч батарей за слезы наших матерей, за нашу родину. Огонь, огонь!
Hell yeah. Go for a quote from DPRK leader to end off today. This old stuff. Same with like the marches from DPRK, like we gotta listen to Kim Il-sung's song again soon. Oh yeah, and don't forget tomorrow. I don't know where to put the book now, but we're gonna save this one. Tomorrow, don't forget though, I'm gonna be reading Kim Jong-il's On the Juche Philosophy. I just book. Well, I do that sometimes. But you can actually get a link to it by going like this anyway. You can go theory list like this, and we're going to be reading them all the way down to the bottom almost, the Kim Jong-il, and we're going to be starting to read on the Juche philosophy. Oh, I'm going to have to link the actual one here because I don't have it. Okay, we'll have to look it up. But it includes On the Juche Idea and several other works as well. So we're going to be reading that starting tomorrow. So make sure you come join me tomorrow for that. And, of course, before I go, we're going to raid out somebody. Before I go, you have to get the ending quote for the day. So before we end, my quote for you for today is from Comrade Kim Jong-il. No problem. And we're going to keep adding to that list too as we go. So, the collective demand for independence is the common requirement of members of society for the existence and development of the social collective. The individual need for independence is the need as an equal member of a social collective. It is the need which should naturally be met through collective effort.
See ya.
In return for his contribution to society. Unquote. Thank you, comrades. Thank you all for coming. And thank you for the support, Ninja Can. Again, it means a lot. All your comrades' support and time means an absolute ton to me, of course. We're gonna raid out to Rob Rousseau today. Rob Rousseau has a haircut reveal, so you gotta check in on that. Of course, Lesbian, thank you for coming. Thank you. 27, I don't know if you're still here, but if you are or not, thank you for hanging out today. It was great to see you in, as well as all my other comrades in chat today. The support from, who did we get? Red Falcon, Ninja Can, thank you very much. Means a lot. That first message you can copy for your raid. That second message, if you're not subscribed to the channel, you can copy for your raid message. Yep, we're going into Rob Rousseau now, Lennon. And make sure you copy that message and tell Rob Rousseau his haircut is looking great. Come back tomorrow. We're going to be reading On the Juche Philosophy. Friday, I'm going to be back again with a much longer stream, or a little bit longer of a stream, at least, that will go at least until like 5 o'clock my time. Bye, Bama. You missed the whole damn thing, Lennon. Now you'll have to catch the VOD later, I guess. Love you, Lenny. We gotta hang out on stream again real soon. Love you, comrades. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for coming, everybody. Let's go raid Rob Rousseau. Salute.
Brown kids in the streets of New York City. That's what John McClane was up to.
I was turned on to this sick individual, and I
Larry,
found
hello.
this.
Hello, Larry. Larry, thank you for the raid. How was your stream?